Chapter 3 Berger Paints 250 Years in the Making. When you are the anvil, bear. When you are the hammer, strike. Edwin Markham. Little did Louis Berger know in 1760 that 2.5 centuries after he began a manufacturing company in India. The Berger Paints of today has a fascinating history of changing ownerships. According to the British National Archives, Louis Berger came to London from Frankfurt, Germany in 1760 as a 19-year-old color chemist to manufacture Prussian blue. He died in 1800. His sons took over the business and converted the paints firm into a limited company, Louis Berger and Sons Limited. In 1960, the company merged with Jensen and Nicholson, a manufacturer of coach paints, to form Berger Jensen Nicholson (BJN). BJN Division British Paints, a part of Celanese Corporation USA at that time, had an Indian operation based at Kolkata. This Indian operation had been acquired in 1947 from Hadfields, a small colonial era company set up in 1923. And so the roots of Louis Berger from Germany and British Paints from India intersected as BJN took over British Paints India. In 1970, BJN was acquired by Hoesch AG. Then the world's largest chemical company based in Germany. In India, Hoesch was associated with liquor baron Vittal Malya. In 1956, Malya and two other Indian partners had tie-up with Hoesch AG to promote Hoesch Pharmaceuticals, where he held 48% of the company and was the chairman of the company. In 1978, Malya became the chairman of British Paints India, and in 1983, British Paints was renamed as Berger Paints India Limited. Following Vittal Malya's death, his son Vijay Malya took over the group's. Hoesch AG sold BJN to Williams Holding. Fueled by his ambitions to build a global conglomerate, Vijay Malya acquired Berger's overseas operation, except Australia, Europe and the UK through a leveraged buyout. Thus, by the late 1980s, the United Breweries Group emerged as the controlling shareholder in Berger Paints. Then in 1991, Vijay Malya sold the UB Group's stake to the current owners, the Dhingara brothers, Kuldeep Singh and Gulbachan Singh. Even as ownership changed hands thrice, from British Paints to BJN in 1969, from BJN to the Malyas 1978, and finally from the Malyas to Dhingaras in 1991, Berger Paints moved up the rankings in the Indian paints industry. In my discussions with paint industry veterans, I found from number 7 in 1980, following a factory lockout to number 4 by 1991 and number 3 by 1998. Currently, Berger is the second largest paint company in India after Asian Paints. This remarkable journey follows in 3 distinct phases across 45 years. The Madhukar Biji Kurian era, transforming into a decorative paints company. Phase 1, 1972 to 91. The most difficult thing to change at a company is to change its people. I joined Berger as the head of sales and marketing. I was 31 years old, supervising around 13 branches of the company, and most branch managers reporting in me had more than 31 years of experience. So says Biji Kurian, former managing director Berger Paints, erstwhile Berger Paints. Gold medalist from the prestigious IIM Ahmedabad, had joined a multinational company instead of Asian Paints in the late 1960s. In 1972, he was roped into Berger Paints by his previous boss, Dongar Gaogar Madhukar. Madhukar, also from Asian Paints, was Berger's first Indian managing director and eventually succeeded Madhukar as CEO in 1980. Reminiscing in his office in Nungambakam, one of Chennai's oldest neighborhood, Kurian told us that he and Madhukar inherited a company that made paints for marine and rail application. He estimated that 60% of the colors that Berger He estimated that 60% of the colors that Berger produced in the 1970s were not even on the shade cards of distributors. As Kurian says, the biggest challenge was to change the work culture within Berger. This, along with a shift in focus towards decorative paints, was the transformation that Kurian led through the 1980s. Towards decorative paints was the transformation that Kurian led through the 1980s. Kurian hired high quality talent and worked on building a culture that encouraged and retained such talent by giving full autonomy to employees. This improvement in culture gave the employees a sense of togetherness. Alongside this, Kurian shifted Berger's orientation. Alongside this, Kurian shifted Berger's orientation towards a consumer-facing home decor business, focusing on delivering products and services based on the requirement of retail customers. To begin with, several new products were launched in the decorative paint segment. Butterfly Enamel, a solvent-based paint for interior use that gives in mid-1970s, and Luxol Silk was launched in 1979 as company's first acrylic emulsion. Kurian ensured that these products were supported by innovative high-profile advertising. This task was given to Lintas Media Group, which at the time was one of India's largest advertising agencies. The biggest of these market campaigns was around Luxol Silk, a brand that was launched at a premium price as compared to then incumbents like Dulux Velvet Touch, Asian Paints Upcolite, Shalimar Paints Superlac, and Jensen & Nicholson Special Effects. Through these marketing campaigns, Luxol Silk was successfully established as a premium emulsion associated with households that own luxurious products like Persian carpets and waterfall crystals. Berger also pioneered the concept of outsourced manufacturing in the paint industry to improve operating efficiencies. Paints and the success of brands such as Luxol Silk helped Berger rise up the ranks through the 1980s and 90s. Berger Paints grew from the 7th largest paint company in India in 1980, smaller than peers like Asian Paints, Kansai Nerolac, Garware, Jensen, Jensen and Nicholson, Shalimar Paints and Imperial Chemical Industries to become the 4th largest paint company in the country in the early 1990s, with a strong orientation towards decorative paints. As Anup Hoon, National Sales Manager Decoratives of Asian Paints during 1991 and 1994 recalls, Madhukar and Kurian brought brilliance into Berger Paints. During this era, supply chain, productivity, operational excellence, brands, and the focus on the decorative market was initiated. Everything and perfected at Asian Paints was carried forth. Berger had been transitioned. Even as Berger transformed itself by the late 1980s, its ownership was due for a change, with the Malias of UB Group looking to sell their controlling stake. Further north in Amritsar, Punjab, the Dhingra brothers, Kuldeep Singh and Gulbachan Singh, were searching for a paints company to diversify their business of paint exports to Russia. The Dhingra brothers have a family history of continuity in the paints business since 1898, when their great-grandfather and grandfather started a paint shop in Amritsar. In the mid-1960s, they started manufacturing paints under the brand name Rajdoot and scaled up the business significantly in North India during the 1970s. Thereafter, during the 1980s, the Dhingras established a strong export traders of paints to the former Soviet Union. Berger Paints was the perfect fit for Dhingras, and in 1991, Vijay Mallya sold his controlling stake in Berger Paints to them. The cash flows generated from the Dhingras export to the Soviet Union were eventually used to acquire Berger Paints. A few months before the USSR, Dhingras acquired a company which was facing considerable financial strain. Berger's aggressive expansion into the decorative paints segment had strained its balance sheet. The company was reeling under capital constraints until 1991, which resulted in delayed payments of salaries to the professional management team and supply chains issues. Given its single manufacturing location at Howrah, West Bengal, Kuldeep Singh Dhingra was convinced of Kurian's capabilities as well as strength of Kurian's team. After all, Kurian had ensured that Berger's operation weren't affected by changing ownership when BJN sold out to Malayas. The Thingras identified liquidity related bottlenecks early in the game and pumped in funds in multiple stages through short term loans, debentures with associated share warrants, which were converted into shares, a right issue in the mid 1990s, and a preferential rate, all of which helped Berger unleash its potential. During 1995-96, Berger introduced color tinting machines at dealer shops. The mission was headed by none other than Abhijit Roy, who would go on to lead the company in 2012. Color tinting machines tint multiple neutral bases, that is dark, medium, or pastel. This machine automatically tints the shade desired by the customers once the shade's code is punched in. As a result, number of color shades offered by the dealer at his shop increased dramatically from 125 colors to more than 5000 colors. After leading Berger for 14 years as CEO, Kurian retired in 1994, handing over the reins to Subir Bose, who at that stage had already spent a decade in the firm. Bose, who would lead Berger for the next 18 years. Bose led Berger's expansion in the decorative paint segment, reducing their focus on the industrial segment. As India's economy opened up following the liberalization-led reforms of 1991, Bose led Berger's expansion outside the firm's traditional market in the eastern region of India through new paint units in Puducherry and Jammu. Was the number 3 player in both the decorative paint segment and the industrial paint segment with 11% and 14% shares respectively. Bose also ramped up Berger's presence across rural areas by emphasizing on products such as Jadoo CEM, Jadoo Emulsion and Jadoo Synthetic. On the supply chain front, Bose expanded the color bank tinting system to more than 1,000 outlets by the end of financial year 2001. The company pursued acquisitions to increase production, especially in Nepal, and to increase its presence in new segments. For example, by acquiring ICI's motor paints business and manufacturing units in Rishra, West Bengal. During this phase, Berger's largest competitor, Asian Paints, was gaining market shares, thanks to a huge exercise of increased use of Booz Allen Hamilton to streamline their system and processes across the organization. On the other hand, peers like Shalimar Paints, Garware and Jensen & Nicholson were rapidly losing market share due to either capital misallocation or poor working capital management cycles. The Abhijit Roy era, catching up with Phase 3, 2011 to 15. To their credit, the Dhingras have shied away from micromanaging Berger Paints. In the third decade of their ownership, the Dhingras saw the change in Berger's leadership. Like Kurian and Bose before him, Abhijit Roy also worked at Asian Paints before joining Berger in 1996. In February 2011, Berger announced Roy's elevation from Senior Vice President Sales Marketing to Director and Chief Operating Officer of the company. In the same announcement, it was also stated that Roy would succeed Bose as the CEO of the company from 1 July 2012. This change in the management team also coincided with acceleration in Berger's revenue growth relative to market leader Asian Paints. A marketing graduate from the batch of 1989-91 at the IIM Bangalore and a BTech from Jadavpur University has with the company in different capacities. He began his career at Berger in 1996 as a production manager. Under Roy, Berger has focused on improving along a variety of dimensions, from raising the aspirational value of Berger's brand to improving internal efficiencies. Along the way, Roy also moved to increasing internal efficiencies. This, combined with a constant focus on cost reduction, has resulted in operating margin expansion. I now discuss each of these points in detail. Change in brand positioning. In an effort to build aspirational connect with the end consumer, Roy has raised advertising spend over the past 5 years. This has gone towards A. Using Bollywood to connect with the audience. Until 2013, Berger was a relatively unknown player in the premium paint segment, which was dominated by Dulux Velvet Touch and Asian Paints Royal. By appointing superstar Katrina Kaif and Asian Paints Royal. By appointing superstar Katrina Kaif as the brand ambassador of Berger Silk, the firm's premium luxury emulsion, Berger has improved the brand's awareness among the customers. While this meant that advertising spend to ratio increased for Berger over the past 5 years, reduction in rebates given to dealers. The strategy has worked well for Berger as it has been able to gain share in the premium segment through customer pull for its premium products rather than just incentivizing dealers to push the products to the customers. Advertising the launch of Express Painting Solution in 2005, a faster and cleaner painting service. Express Painting Solutions enables painters to use advanced equipment to execute the paint project in almost half the usual time with increased convenience for the occupants of the house. As the proportion of the labor cost within a paint project increases over time, up from around 10% in 1980 to over 60% currently. Over the next 15 to 20 years, the nature of paint projects is likely to evolve into a combination of do-it-yourself and value-added labor services. Only give a highly value-added approach to services, but may also prove to be a key step towards the launch of do-it-yourself paint project in India. Amongst its competitors, Asian Paints is the only other firm which has initiated similar steps like its home solution and color consultancy services. Improving supply chain management. In the absence of centralized supply chain management infrastructure, managing inventory levels becomes a tough task. Data analytics can be used to improve forecasting demand at a pan-India level. However, without proper supply chain infrastructure, even data analytics cannot achieve much. While Asian Paints took the lead in installing a technologically advanced centralized supply chain management and ERP system over 1999 and 2002, Berger implemented a similar 2012 in collaboration with Oracle. Its management believes that the new ERP platform can improve the accuracy of demand forecasting for the group in the years to come. In a press interview in December 2012, Roy said, "It is the supply side that we need to improve. We lose some amount of sales on account of our inability to supply the right kind of material on time. It is one area which we are working on." New approach in hiring, retaining and incentivizing the sales team. Roy has standardized the process for hiring sales personnel across the country to bring consistency in the quality of people being hired. The distribution network has also seen improvement due to these changes. Recruitment of management trainees has been changed to include graduates from IIMs and the quality of training provided has also been improved. Incentive structures of the sales team have been changed to make them more aligned with the firm's focus on network expansion. Gross margin expansion driven by improved efficiencies around procurement and manufacturing cost tailwind over this period. In fact, this margin expansion has come during a period in which Asian Paints has reported no gross margin improvement. Even more interestingly, this gross margin improvement for Berger has come despite putting its portfolio at a premium, having accounted for only a small fraction of, as summarized in the firm's financial year 14 annual report. This has been possible through improvement in product mix, generating higher volumes with better economies of scale through wider reach and better servicing, reduction of rebates on the back of improved brand equity and structured and well monitored measures for reduction in cost. The last one includes strong management of working capital, improvement of productivity at all plants, continuous development of alternative raw materials, new sources for raw materials, improved formulations for better quality and lower costs, and innovative procuring implemented for the purpose of seamless coordination and quicker decisions. Reduction in discounts to dealers. Ambit's consumer sector team channel checks suggest that Berger has historically been the most aggressive among the top 5 players in the industry in terms of providing discounts and rebates, especially to dealers. Also, Berger provides a longer credit option, 28 days vs 21 days for Asian Paints, and higher average cash discounts to its dealers. As shown in Exhibit 28, cash discounts and rebates given to dealers as a proportion of sales have been declining consistently over the past 5 years. What is Berger Paint's secret sauce? Section 1. Focusing on the core business. We have to focus on paint and grow only in paint. It is a very competitive business. One small mistake can take us back by 3 to 4 months, or even have to tread safely. While competitors wait for Berger to make a mistake, we too wait for competitors to make a mistake so that we can cover the gap against them faster, said Mr. K.S. Thingra, promoter Berger Paints, during my meeting with him. Why would any promoter pay for a brand that is strained financially and operates in a tough business? When I asked Kuldeep Singh Dhingra this question in the context of the company he acquired from Vijay Mallya in 1991, his reply was that he believed in the quality of the Berger brand and was impressed that the company was professionally managed. Despite the reported financial strain, he believed that Berger could be gradually made more and more profitable. The Dhingras have been in the paint industry since 1898. K.S. Dhingra and his brother Gurbachan Singh Dhingra are the families associated with the paint industry. The fifth generation, that is Rishma Kaur, daughter of KSD, and Kanwardeep Dhingra, son of GSD, is also being groomed for the past few years at Berger as a part of the firm's succession planning. KSD and GSD cut their teeth selling paint first in their paint shops and paint factory in Amritsar in the 1960s and later in Delhi in the 1970s. It was in Delhi where they received paint orders for exports to the former Soviet Union for the Moscow Olympics of 1980. Their Russian business in the 1980s thanks to huge orders. However, the Dhingras wanted a backup in case there was a change of circumstances in the former Soviet Union, which did take place in the early 1990s. The Dhingras thus shifted their focus to Berger, entrenching themselves in one of the business understood better than others. To their credit, this laser-like focus has neither wavered nor shifted since 1991. The paints industry is a ruthless and complex business. Unlike other fast-moving consumer goods, FMCG industries, the paints business faces unique challenges such as limited scope for the product differentiation, low involvement of end customers in deciding which paint product to choose, the voluminous nature of the paint product in terms of price per unit volume, and the large number of SKUs given varied paint in slim trade margins of only 3 to 6% in the distribution channel for the paint industry as compared to 13 to 20% for consumer staples categories like food beverages and 20 to 30% for most of the other discretionary consumer categories like automobiles, durables, leisure, etc. So result in increased bargaining power of the channel, dealers and painters as compared to other consumption categories given their ability to push a particular paint product to the end consumers. In such a tough business with low margins for distributors, how does one gain leadership? What are the critical success factors to beat competition? I believe there are 6 of them. First, a strong supply chain which keeps a company's inventory costs under control and keeps the dealer happy with high inventory turnover. Second, a wide enough product range. And third, having products with easy mentioned in the next section. Fourth, effective marketing initiatives that help create demand among customers, especially for premium products. For example, Asian Paints invests heavily on experience centers like Asian Paints Signature Stores and Asian Paints Color Ideas, which help consumers experience the look and feel of the products prior to the purchase. Fifth, benefit to the dealers, given their important role in selling the final product. Rebates, favorable credit terms, and rewards and gifts like international holidays are some of the most commonly used benefits. And finally, top quality management talent. Given the importance of operational execution in the paint industry, the quality of managerial professionals in the organization is one of the biggest long-term advantages for the paint manufacturers in competition. Most paint manufacturers focus on high quality schools of India for junior and mid level managerial roles. Ambit's consumer sector team believes that on these above mentioned six parameters, Asian Paints scores best on supply chain management, product range, marketing initiatives, and the quality of management professionals. Berger scores best and the quality of management professionals. Berger scores best on product range alongside Asian Paints and benefits to dealers and painters. Berger is just a shade behind Asian on some parameters like supply chain management and quality of management professionals, but on almost all parameters, it is significantly ahead of the remaining large Indian paint companies, namely Kansai Nerolac and AkzoNobel. Berger is one of the two companies alongside Asian Paints in the industry which has focused on consistently building supply chain efficiencies, consistently widening the distribution network and marketing initiatives. As Thangra told me, paints are the only businesses I know, and I also know how competitive it is. Hence, I have maintained a philosophy of not taking the risk of allocating capital towards any business which is not related to the paints industry. Thingra also shows a deep respect for professional management. In the past 4 decades, all four CEOs, D. Madhukar, Biji Kurian, Sabir Bose, and Abhijit Roy, were professionals with no kinship towards the off-changing owners of Berger. When I met Abhijit Roy, MD and CEO Berger Paints, and Srijit Das Gupta, Director of Finance Berger Paints in November 2015, they came across as having very high regard for the Dhingras. The only qualification the Dhingras insist on is that the Berger's leaders should be from the paints industry. I feel that even if people in the senior management of my company are not homegrown, they should have come from within the paint industry. If I bring in a CEO from say automotive industry or FMCG industry, I cannot take that risk, Thingra added. It is no surprise that Berger steadily rose up the ranks from the 7th largest paint company in India in 1982, becoming the second largest decorative paint companies in 2000. Since 2000, Berger has widened the gap against the number 3 and number 4 players, but Berger's strategies are neither unique nor secretly held. If Berger could implement them with such focus, why did Berger's competitors not emulate Berger? My discussion with paint industry veterans indicate that other than Asian Paints and Berger Paints, the other firms in the paint industry lacked focus, were complacent, and one competitor started a policy where it would give elongated credit periods to its dealers in order to grow its distribution network. This put severe pressure on the company in the 1980s, impairing its competitive positioning. And B. Another competitor ventured into unrelated sectors. These forays, along with other factors, floods in 1998 and 99 affecting factories and depots, poor implementation of strategy towards the launch of tinting machines negatively impacted the company in the 1990s. Mistakes made by other larger paint players include frequent changes to their ownership and management teams which brought discontinuity to the focus on execution at ground level, and B. more focus on the industrial sides of the paints business rather than its decorative side. Thus, an intense single-minded focus on the core business is among the key reasons Asian Paints and Berger Paints maintaining their positions in the Indian paint industry. Section 2. Deepening the competitive moat. Berger Paints has also steadily built its competitive advantages across the 4 criteria of John Kay's IBUS framework, namely innovation, reputation, architecture, and strategic assets. Let's focus on each aspect of the framework. Innovation. Berger's innovation are on three fronts: how the promoters managed the firm, how the firm introduced innovation in the form of tinting machine for dealers, and how the firm introduced innovation in the form of tinting machine for dealers, and how the firm introduced innovative products. Firstly, the promoters. As per Forbes, the Dhingras are among India's 50 richest families, and yet the Dhingras come across as different from the average Indian billionaire. They maintain a low profile and are rarely they are neither in the business pages of the Economic Times nor on page 3 of Bombay Times. For a family of their stature, the office of the Dhingras in Delhi is sparsely furnished. Back of the shopping precinct affair in an unpretentious downmarket commercial complex adjoining Zamrudpur village. Berger itself is headquartered in Kolkata and runs its operations from a nondescript office building located at the low profile end of Park Street. In my meetings over the past few years with the Dhingras, I have found them to be refreshingly grounded. The Dhingras also stand, I have found them to be refreshingly grounded. The Dhingras also stand apart in their resolute trust in professional management, a refreshing change from the power hungry, riven with insecurity mentality of Indian promoters. Berger is run entirely by professionals, with the promoters maintained has continued through decades despite changes in ownership. The Dhingras have refrained from interfering in the day-to-day management of the company. A member of Berger's senior management told me, one of the biggest contributions of the promoters is that they have always given us a lot of freedom and flexibility to operate. Beyond the support provided in strategic initiatives and discussions on the annual business plan held in the beginning of the year, the promoters allow complete independence to the management based out of Kolkata to handle and deliver the budget that they have committed to. Secondly, the introduction of tinting budget that they have committed to. Secondly, the introduction of tinting machine. A tinting machine is the same size as bank's ATM and is responsible for revolutionary changes in the lives of paint dealers and distributors. When I visited one of the largest dealers of paints in the western suburbs of Mumbai, the tinting machine was one of the largest dealers of paints in the western suburbs of Mumbai. The tinting machine was neatly tucked away in the corner of the shop. For dealers, tinting machines did away with the necessity of stocking large number of SKUs. This reduced the requirement space for dealers and improved their inventory management. More important, introduced these machines in the mid 1990s. Berger came second in 1996, introducing tinting machines to dealer stores at a time when the emulsion category of paints in India was solely controlled by ICI with its Dulux brand and Asian Paints with its Upcolite and Royal brands. Tinting machines use three main colors. For Berger was the price of a tinting machine for a dealer was as high as 8,31,000, a large outlay for a dealer in the 1990s. And the Berger brand was unheard of in the emulsion space. To overcome this challenge, Berger used innovative marketing and sales tactics to aggressively push tint and space-saving device. By September 1999, Berger had installed 400 tinting machines out of a total of 1,200 machines in the industry, thus establishing the firm's presence in the emulsion category. Thirdly and finally, on products, Berger has focused on introducing products with special characteristics which have allowed it to create a strong brand recall for such products. A few Berger products and their characteristics are listed here. These products have enabled Berger to sustain its competitive positioning. In the industry. Lexul Silk, Breathe Easy, Weather Coat, All God, Easy Clean, Designer Finishes. Brands and reputation. Over the past 50 years, Berger has consistently invested in creating a strong brand recall in all categories of paints from the economy segment to the premium segment. Kurian, who joined the firm in 1973 as the head of sales and marketing, spearheaded Berger's oriented towards brand recreations. After the launch of brands Saxol Silk in 1979, through its tie-up with Lintas Media Group, British Paint, as Berger was known then, became the first company that advertised on the cover page of weekly English news magazine. One of the most successful advertising campaigns was around Luxol Silk. This campaign helped position Berger in the premium paints category by emphasizing the association of premium paint customers with prestigious objects. The taglines of the advertisement campaign include: when the miniature is Mughal, the walls are Luxol silk. When the carpet is Persian, the walls are Luxol silk. When the piano is Steinway, the walls are Luxol silk. When the bronze is Chola, the walls are Luxol silk. And Luxol silk, it is the only emulsion paint you can tell with your eyes closed. In the designer finish segment, with the launch of the brand Illusions in 2001. Since then, most of its peers have introduced designer finish paints in their product portfolio. Since Abhijit Roy took over as the MD and CEO of Berger, the firm has seen a significant increase in its brand salience thanks to the launch of the Berger Silk advertising campaign featuring Bollywood star Katrina Kaif, supported by the launch of Berger's Express Painting Service and the aggressive advertising campaign backing it. These product launches and marketing initiatives strengthened Berger's relationship with the dealers and enhanced the brand recall among customers. Berger has aggressively raised its advertisement spend over the years, from 3% of sales in financial year 2005 to around 5% in financial year 11. By financial year 15, Berger's advertising and promotion spend stood the highest among competitors including Asian Paints, 5.2% of sales. Architecture. Berger has well entrenched relationship with employees. In this particular aspect, Berger has learned from the industry leader Asian Paints, which is well known for its top of the line management. This learning begins, which is well known for its top of the line management. This learning began as early as the 1970s under the relationship of Madhugar and Kurian. As a veteran of the paint industry put it, Biji Kurian was a very fine brain and he had a knack for selecting good people. He was the first leader that he delegated too much. But this delegation also meant that the people set the pace for the company to become what Subir Bose could leverage on from the 1990s onwards. So, Berger had very capable people in key positions including R&D. R&D was a neglected area before him. These are the only two areas where decision making and enthusiasm mean something. When I was the CEO of British Paint, I ensured that two people in the whole organization, the personnel manager and the marketing manager, had to get my clearance on everything that they do. However, to get good people, you have to pay great salaries, and this was a constraint for Berger. Moreover, being a little known brand in the 1970s, hiring quality talent was a challenge for us. Kurian went on to say, the kind of salaries that we were paying, we couldn't afford the Asian Paints approach of hiring IIM graduates. My philosophy was that you need to give an opportunity to your employees to perform to their full potential. There were two things I used to tell my recruitment manager. Don't recruit someone who is not able to do a job just to fill a vacancy. Secondly, even if we don't have a job but you come across the right person, you must recruit him. Most of the things that I did were essentially to stabilize the operations and to give full autonomy to the people within certain boundaries. Kurian's successors and the current promoters have supported this approach of hiring and retaining high quality talent and providing freedom alongside accountability to employees throughout the organizational hierarchy. Roy, the current MD and CEO, told us, our culture has two parts to it. One, there is freedom to are not told to follow a straight-jacketed approach from the leaders. This culture helps cultivate an entrepreneurial feeling amongst our employees. The second part is that we have a very open culture. Anybody from the field level to the sales manager can walk into my room without appointment and talk to me to either give me information or to ask for my views.
I sometimes call branch managers into a conference room and ask them to present their success story, which we put up on SharePoint, a team collaboration software tool, for everyone else to understand and share. This encourages people to think differently and innovate. Roy has worked hard to improve and strengthen this culture. He told me, I have focused on improving the quality of manpower being hired in this organization over the past 5 years. For instance, previously the recruitment of a sales officer used to be carried out by various branch managers. This led to a lack of consistency in the quality of people being hired across geographies, and hence inter-branch transfers used to create problems. We have standardized that part now. In terms of management trainees, we have moved to the IAMs and hence recruiting quality has been improved along with increased focus on training these people. This focus on employees is also a stated policy which is implemented rigorously. According to the director's reports in financial year 13, Berger recognized the fact that talent and skill are becoming scarce and it requires considerable effort to identify, engage and retain such talents. The average employee training hours in financial year 13 were 15. The report also added that salary alone is not the criteria for satisfaction of deserving employees and that the firm needs to offer a participative work environment and a strong relationship with the dealers. Dealers and painters are in effect the first customers for any paint company. Under Roy's leadership, Berger has not only improved distributor expansion but also changed its approach towards hiring, training and incentivizing of the sales team by giving them reasonably stretched targets to deliver. Berger beats its competitors on this metric by offering the most attractive benefits to both the dealers as well as the painters. Strategic assets. An all India network of plants, manufacturing facilities, and dealer distribution network serves as a strong entry barrier. A well-positioned manufacturing plant reduces the need to stock surplus inventory at company depots and also reduces the time to supply products to the dealers. Thus, Berger's manufacturing facilities are its key strategic assets. Starting from the east, controlled capital allocation. We are clear that whatever capital is available with us, we will use it for our paints business and not anywhere else. This is clear. We will not go for diversification, said K.S. Thingra, promoter Berger Paints, in my meeting with him in October 2015. That has been carried forth by Berger's dealership. When the Thingras acquired Berger, its financials were capital starved. The Thingras pumped their funds to improve the situation. As Kuldeep Thingra puts it, when I bought this business in 1991, the situation was so bad that the management was not even getting paid salaries on time. Besides paying for the operating expenses, the Thingras also contributed significantly towards setting up of manufacturing plants across the country. In our discussions, the early management team of Berger stated, the supply chain in the paint industry is very important. Until the early 1990s, we used to suffer because our factory in Howrah was at one end of India and we had to supply products across the country from there. Moreover, since paint demand was very seasonal, this used to further complicate supply chain issues for us. From 1996 onwards, we started expanding our factories, first in Puducherry, then in Jammu, then in Gujarat, all coming at regular intervals. As articulated by Anup Hoon, the problem faced by Berger during a major portion of the Korean era, particularly in the 1980s, was that the owners were not giving enough capital for capacity expansion. Thingras understood that what Berger needed was capacity expansion or being able to set up new plants and to be professional management team. Berger's sustained focus on using technology, as explained in the earlier section, to improve internal efficiencies, along with its successful brand campaign sustaining its number 2 position, has resulted in superior ROCEs. Berger has been generous of its profits as dividend. Thus, as highlighted in Exhibit 32, Berger's ROCs have been consistently between 16% and 28% over the past 20 years. This controlled capital allocation by Berger is a result of Kuldeep Dhingra's view about allocating capital only to businesses in the paint industry, without diluting the firm's focus on the core domestic decorative business. Thingra compares this focus to golf. He says, "My philosophy on capital allocation is similar to what happens in golf. Focus on your stance and keep your eye on the ball, which for me is my business. When hitting the shot, don't lift your head to look at the direction in which you want to hit. Instead, look at the ball. Then it will certainly go in the right direction. Thingra is also ready with plans for the future. He says, "We bought the biggest specialist exterior insulation finishing systems company in Poland in 2008, where we have a technology related edge. Although we want to bring it to India at some point of time in future, the right time has not yet come. If I do it now, for a long time I will disturb Berger Paint's balance sheet. Hence, I will wait for the right time." Berger's astonishing out is worth rupees 212 presently in April 2016, implying a compounded annual return of 28%. That same rupee would be worth just rupees 7 if invested in the Sensex, implying a CAGR of 9%. Thus, Berger has at the heart of this outstanding performance. There have been a deep focus on the paint industry and only in the paint business, a deepening of its competitive modes through a focus of hiring good people, training them well, and creating a healthy